want to welcome everyone to you've attended the NCA Now What webinar. So today we're going to be talking about beyond the NCA and what that really means. My name is Kim Linkle, and I am one of the coaches with the Coalition Development Support Team. With me today is Rick Collins, who is another coach with the Coalition Development Support Team, and Danielle Moni Zobo. I do not do a good job of pronouncing her name, and I apologize, Danielle.
You did a great job.
You
did a great job.
Thank you. And she is on staff at CADCA with the Coalition Development Support Team. And so she provides a lot of behind the scenes work, assistance and stuff for our team as well. So just a little bit about myself. I have been doing this in February, it will be 4 years. And so just providing coaching and direction to coalitions across the nation as they become drug-free community coalitions and as they join the CADCA, community. And so I love the work that I get to do because it's different work each and every day, because each and every community is different, and therefore each and every coalition looks different. I come to you today from Batesville, Indiana, a very small community about halfway between Indianapolis, Indiana and Cincinnati, Ohio. So I, again, just want to welcome everyone here, and I look forward to sharing the information about the Beyond the NCA initiative that we started, I believe this 2 years ago. So this will be our third group of coalitions that we have going through this. And I want to turn it over to Rick so he can share a little bit about his background and work here with CADCA.
Yeah, thanks, Kim, and great to see familiar names on here, and thanks for joining us this morning or this afternoon, wherever you're coming in from. My name's Rick Collins, and I've been with the team for about 3+ years. Been doing this work with Kim, really enjoying this work, particularly this Beyond the NCA, which we'll talk about obviously today, is really a great opportunity for you to kind of take it to the next level and think about how you're applying what you just learned in the Coalition Academy to your day-to-day work. So I have attended the Academy myself. I'm a coalition director for 3 community coalitions out in Hawaii. I'm originally a Cincinnati native, so I grew up really close to where Kim actually lives, and Kim and I connect when I get to town and things like that, but I've been living in Hawaii for about 18 years now. And coalition director for 3 coalitions out here. So Kim and I do this work that you all do on a day-to-day basis. But the great thing about coalition development support is there's a number of us on staff. And so we all pull resources from one another and can provide kind of team support as coalitions are going through this project. So that's really exciting to me as well.
Thanks, Rick. And Danielle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle. I am the Coalition Development Support Associate, as Kim mentioned earlier. If any of you have emailed training@cadca.org, I have been the one to get back to you, so it's good to see your name. I'm very excited to be working on this project. I started with CADCA 6 months ago, so I'm very new, and I'm very excited to learn from all of you and to provide as many resources and just be a source of support for you all. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Danielle. And yeah, she says she's, been here only for 6 months, but believe me, she has done a lot in those 6 months, especially since, unfortunately, we have had to be virtual during that time. So thank you, Danielle, for that. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So Rick, I will have you go ahead and advance the slide. So we may not be here the entire hour and a half today, but we want to leave plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. And so we will go through the PowerPoint and we will talk specifically about your accomplishments as you went through the National Coalition Academy. Obviously, over or less than a year ago, I'm sure where you are now with your coalition looks nothing like what it looked like when you just started your National Coalition Academy experience. We will also talk about the Beyond the NCA overview and kind of what that looks like, and talk about just more details about that. And then we'll tell you also about the next steps. So first of all, looking at your accomplishments, we obviously in the National Coalition Academy really work on making sure each and every person that attends understands the strategic prevention framework. And so, many of us call it, it looks like a flower. Some of us say it looks like a, more of a circle graph. So, however we want to describe it, obviously in the middle, you will see the strategic prevention framework layout. And so during the National Coalition Academy, we went through each of those areas from assessment to capacity to planning to implementation and evaluation, all while also continuing to keep sustainability and cultural competence on our minds, because those are infused with each and every piece of the strategic prevention framework. I know obviously capacity is in that outside wheel. I sometimes wonder if that shouldn't be on the inside wheel, because that is something that we work on all the time as coalitions. Capacity looks different to each coalition, but that is something I feel like is infused in each and every piece of our coalition development from day one until we are a fully sustained coalition in year 10, 12, 14, however many years coalitions have been together. So this is what we went through as a group or a cohort with the National Coalition Academy. I know I saw many familiar names, and I'm sure Rick did too, as we were two of those, the coaches providing coalition development support for those different cohorts from the 2021 National Coalition Academy.
And I just want to add in there, if you look at that, that's a lot that you covered. And so just an applause for you to know that you've done all of this work. But I also know, and Kim and Danielle know this too, that it's overwhelming. Like we have to cover so much in those 3 weeks. And it sounds like, wow, 3 weeks, that's a long training. But as you now know, those 3 weeks are packed tight with all of this. And so one of the great things about this is now what we're going to do, if you're interested in this project, is really think about these key pieces and how are you bringing this back to your coalition. I know many of us are challenged to do that during the academy. And so this provides you with an opportunity to really begin to dive deeper into each of these pieces of the strategic prevention framework. So just wanted to applaud you on that as well. It's a lot to cover.
Absolutely. Another part of your accomplishments as a coalition is the development of each of the products. So now that we are into December, most of you have, had your products completed and reviewed and have been recommended for graduation at the National Forum in 2022, which again, very exciting. We had so many coalitions, that was able to cross that finish line. So kudos to each and every one of you. However, as Rick mentioned, it is a lot of work. During week 1, we worked on your community assessment and logic model. During week 2, we then started looking at your strategic and action plan, your evaluation plan, and your communication evaluation plan, and then wrapped up week 3, with that sustainability plan. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, not only were we working on these products, we were also talking about capacity, we were also talking about cultural competency, and many other areas that go into developing your coalition from day one. And so what I like about Beyond the NCA is that it allows us some extra time to really work on one of these products, 2 of these products, or any other area, that you really want to strengthen over the next year. And so, unfortunately, we've been living in a pandemic for what's going on almost 2 years. And so many coalitions have been challenged during that time collecting good, strong data to really show what's going on in their community. And what's going on in our communities has changed significantly during the pandemic. And so, as we're laying out our logic models, it is vital to have, new updated data, because what was going on in early 2020 may not be what's going on now in our community. And so that is, an area that I know a few of the coalitions that I've worked with this past year with Beyond the NCA, we've really worked on developing, a community survey that they could just really find out more here and now what's going on in their community, or they would go out and do an environmental scan to see what was going on. So again, although your products are now developed and you are graduating from the National Coalition Academy, in no way do we want to see these products be put up on a shelf and be like, oh, we're done with that. We're going to wipe our hands free of that. We really want these products and encourage each coalition to use these products as you move ahead, because by using these products, you truly will see an impact with the work that you are doing and a shift in that data over time. Again, we know it takes time, right, to change anything. And so that's why we have those short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals. And, because we are working over time to make some of those changes. And if you're a coalition that knows, you know what, hey, our logic model may not be as strong as we would really like to see it because we were missing data, this is a great opportunity for you to spend some time over the next year to really, work on that and gather some additional data and have that coach working one-on-one to really, further develop your logic model, or it could be your sustainability plan, whatever that looks like. But those are, obviously your accomplishments. Again, you did a lot of work in a short period of time.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, Kim. I think some of us, and I put myself in the us because I've been there at the academy, feel like we're rushed through these products. We're going to really, we can really look at assisting you in thinking about, making sure that these products are realistic for you. Because sometimes folks feel like, I had to get this in, so I wish I had been able to put more time or engage your community or your coalition more in it. This is an opportunity during this project to think about how we would do that better, how we would make these products more applicable and actually realistic for your coalition work.
Absolutely. So then from the products, obviously, there were many other areas that we looked at and discussed during the National Coalition Academy. And I feel the most vital piece of that is that training transfer. So obviously we can't have our entire coalition go through the National Coalition Academy. It's just not feasible. However, it's important for those of us coalition leaders who are sitting in the National Coalition Academy to then bring that information back to our coalition members. And some people on this webinar may say, why? What's the big deal? And I use the phrase all the time. Anytime someone says like, well, you know what you're doing, Kim. I'm like, yeah, but what if Kim Linkle goes away tomorrow? Like, let's hope that doesn't happen. But we, in any instance, I want the coalition here locally to be able to excel, whether I'm sitting behind, the wheel kind of guiding it or not. And so by providing that training transfer and bringing back what you've learned over, the last several months back into your coalition is vital, so that, the members are willing to help collect that data. The members are willing to keep those products alive and moving forward. And your members many times can be that guide to what's truly going on in your community, because obviously, I'm just one person. So what I see may not be what someone in the faith-based community sees, or may not be something that the school personnel sees. And so by letting that information be shared with the entire coalition, that their their mindset gets they reset their thinking, and they're able to be like, oh, well, I need to let the coalition know about this, or hey, you know what, there's this new organization, I think we should bring them to the table. And so it just is a great way to continue to build your coalition members by bringing that information back. We also talk about membership recruitment a lot. I know in many of my cohorts, and I bet Rick can, share the same, that, we had, coalitions come and say, oh my gosh, we have 2 new members, or we were able to reach the faith-based community, or we brought a member of the business sector on our coalition. So many of you have grown your coalitions over the last several months, and that's huge as well. Being, newer coalitions, newer to this drug-free community program and being able to not only go through the National Coalition Academy, but then at the same time to really be looking at and building your membership. You know, I talked a lot already about data collection. That is important. And I know many of you, again, had some huge wins on data collection, whether that was an environmental scan, whether that was through key informant interviews, whether that was a community survey. You know, each community, again, looks different because how they collect their data, you know, is different based on what their needs for their data are and how their community is willing to provide data. I know here locally, we do a community perception survey annually. And the first year we had over 800 people, I think it was 806 to be exact, complete that survey. We're only a community of 6,500 people. And so I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on that we had this many adults complete the survey? But it was because in our community, that's what they've kind of been taught, you know, to provide that feedback. And you're not going to make a change in your community unless you provide the feedback. So it's not just our survey in our community that got really high responses, but we're very fortunate because people like to provide that feedback in our community. In someone else's community, it may need to be those one-on-one conversations because, you know, their community may not be kind of trained to take those, you know, online surveys. So it's really important to know your community and, you know, how they're going to respond to providing information and data, and as well know what data you need to collect. We've also seen, you know, communities and coalitions advocating for change. I know in a couple of my cohorts, we had some huge, you know, passing of ordinances and big wins. And that's huge for a year one coalition to have during that first year of funding. So kudos to each and every one of you that, you know, was able to already advocate for change. And that's going to be something that each and every one of you over time will see, you know, we will see more and more as you grow into, you know, year 3 and year 4 and hopefully year 6 through 10. And so that is, you know, another area that we have really seen coalitions grow over the last year, basically. And then finally, your coalition structure. I know, again, many coalitions, you know, changed some of their structure. They saw that there was a need to improve their structure in one way or another. There were coalitions that added an executive committee or a leadership team. There were some coalitions that said, you know what, we need committees or we need task forces to really hone in on specific areas. And many times that comes from other coalitions within the National Coalition Academy sharing what's been working well for their coalition. And so, you know, that coalition structure is important and does take time. Currently, the coalition here locally, we are a year 8 drug-free community recipient, and we still, you know, look at our structure and is it still impactful and is it still effective? So, you know, coalition structure does and will change over time depending, you know, what the needs are within the coalition. So those are just some additional accomplishments that I know many of you have had one or multiple of. And I just want to, you know, say kudos to you because obviously having accomplishments this early is great. However, you know, we as a collective coalition development support team can even assist you in moving your coalition ahead and even having more accomplishments in years 2 and beyond. So now I'm going to ask for you, if you don't mind, in the chat to put what was your biggest accomplishment throughout your NCA experience? So what do you feel was the best accomplishment that came out of your coalition attending the National Coalition Academy?
I think I hear fingers typing right now.
I know.
Here they go.
Sue Boyle put much better understanding of logic models, especially local conditions, which is absolutely huge. We have Leslie talked about writing logic models and action plans. I think when I went through the academy many years ago, I think that's what it really helped me with, being able to connect those logic models to my action plan versus just kind of having that general overarching action plan. Sustainability. There's a coalition, they actually held a 5K family fun run, so that's awesome. We also, someone mentioned building up resources and the ability to complete and utilize a community survey and focus group. So we talked about that. Logic model again, how to properly compose all of the documents and products, being able to understand how the whole process works. And again, as Rick mentioned early on, it is a lot. When we go back and we look at that snapshot of the strategic prevention framework and how much goes into each one of those areas, you guys have done a lot of work since March, I think is when the first cohort started. I mean, so since March, you guys have all done a lot of work. Again, more about the products, being new to coalitions, being able to learn the actual process effectively was my biggest accomplishment, conceptualizing the structure. So just on and on. Like, I just love to see how many people truly feel like they had a big accomplishment. So kudos to all of everyone that shared everything. I can't get through them all, or I would we would be here for the rest of the day, and we definitely don't want to do that. So thank you for sharing those. And I just love to see everyone's, and everyone's different. We'll notice that too. Not everyone said logic models, or not everyone said products. Someone said sustainability. So it really is, taking back what your coalition and your community needs. So thank you all for sharing that. So now I am going to take this opportunity to turn it over to Rick, and he is going to talk about, now that you've graduated, what's next? So what does this beyond the NCA look like anyway? You have all, obviously have some interest because you're on this webinar today. And so Rick will further explain what beyond the NCA looks like.
Thanks, Kim. And
Absolutely.
again, thanks for all the responses. It's great to see what you all are doing there. That's great. So the Beyond the NCA project started about 3 years ago, I believe. And it was a group of us getting together along with hearing from coalitions that were graduating from the Coalition Academy, basically saying that while the Academy was great, that there's a challenge to bring this back to your community, that some of what Kim talked about, that training transfer in sustaining the efforts of what you've learned in the Academy is hard. And Kim and I know firsthand, working in our own coalitions, that that's hard work. And so CADCA really thought hard and long about this, about how to continue to support coalitions through this work. And I applaud CADCA for coming up with this project. They're providing it free of charge to you. And it's really a way for us to provide an additional support beyond the training for an entire year, essentially. And we're going to provide one-on-one coaching. So one of the great things about it that's a little bit different than the Academy is you're going to get deeper support in what you're working on. We did the best we can in the environment we were in a virtual space, to have breakout rooms and have you talking to folks and have trainers visit you in those breakout sessions. But one of the things that the Beyond the NCA allows you to do is to have more of that one-on-one time. I mean, it gives you another 12 months to really think about how you're bringing this home to your community and how you're working on it. So it's that one-on-one support. It's offered to anybody who's graduated from the Coalition Academy for this year. And so that's a bit of what we are and what we're about. And it really is directed by you as the coalition. And so while we give you some structure in the project, it is a self-directed project in many ways. And so we'll be looking to you to think about your goals, your vision for the project. I just think it's a great project. I'm really excited to be involved in it. And again, it's free. And I like to say free is me. And so you're probably thinking with that, what's the catch? I'm trying to sell you something here, right? And of course, there are a few expectations that we have. And of course, up on the upfront, one of those expectations is your own commitment to this. It is by and large self-directed. So it really is up to your coalition to make the decision. This is not a requirement to go through, and we don't want to make it a requirement for folks to participate in the project. So it is going to take some of your time, right? And it's going to be a commitment on behalf of probably not only you as staff, but you'll also maybe want to bring this up with your coalition or your steering committee and make sure this is something they feel like that they want to be involved in as well, because one of the opportunities you'll have is to bring other members from your coalition into this project so that it doesn't have to be a didactic conversation and project between us and the coordinator, us and the director, but we could be looking at how we create a work group around this or a team, or that we're involved in your coalition a little bit more deeply than just the staff. We'll create kind of some regular ongoing contact, and that looks different for each coalition. I have had times where coalitions are ramping up to do community assessment, or they're working on a specific activity or project that they're going to be implementing. And I'll talk to them almost once a week for a month or twice a month. And then there's other times where we're talking every other month. So we'll come up with that kind of rhythm that makes sense for you and where you're at in whatever activities you're doing, but we will create some level of ongoing contact with you. We usually use Zoom for those meetings, which everybody seems to like. I know we're zoomed out, but I think it's better than nothing. And it's a great way to connect. So we'll use Zoom meetings, but we'll also be available for email and phone contact and things like that. The other thing that's going to be important is for you to really think about what do you want out of something like this? Where do you see, and I mean you, I think collectively being your coalition, where does the coalition that you're working with, where do they see themselves in a year? Let's develop and create some goals on where we want to go. So we're going to ask you to really think about those and to come with some of those goals you have in mind. Our job will be to help us and help you meet that finish line at the end of the year, so that when we look back in December 2022, hopefully we can have accomplished those, or at least put you on a path where you feel like you're making progress toward those goals. And then I think there's a piece here to say something about we expect, while it's time commitment, we're really looking at a year-long commitment from you. And so this is something to consider. I think what we don't want to set up in this project is that we're going to somehow be a one and done kind of activity for you. Like Kim and I don't want to come in and meet with you one time and think, wow, okay, that accomplished whatever we came to accomplish, because you know that we'll get nothing accomplished in one meeting, right? And so we want you to think about this as a year-long project. And as you know, coalition work is more like a marathon than it is a sprint, right? And so we want to be thinking about how can we have some good quality, achievable, smart objectives and goals for an entire year. So we're really looking at you to commit from January to December, the calendar year of 2022. And the other expectation we have, and we'll help you with this, is applying for the GOT outcomes. So in year 2, coalitions are asked to apply for the GOT outcomes, which is a CADCA kind of award that's given to coalitions that can show the outcomes in their communities that they created. Yours will be around essentially changing your local conditions, but we'll be here, and I think it's actually added support for you as you're writing for this. We'll be here to help guide you along as you think about setting up the plan for that and showing outcomes around your local conditions. So a little bit on how the project works and how we'll get started and the flow of what it will look like for the year. And so at the beginning, we'll do some of that. We'll ask you to do some of that self-assessment of your coalition. So you'll be thinking about what kind of goals might you be looking at achieving in the next 12 months? What were the key pieces of the Coalition Academy that maybe you want to make sure we get training transfer to your coalition? You might also want to be considering there, what are some of your challenges? Are you stuck somewhere? Are you having a problem engaging folks, creating structure, whatever that might be? We're going to ask you to do a self-assessment, and we'll help you with that and provide you with a tool for that. But that's going to be really important so that so that you know, and we know kind of where you're currently at, what you think your goals are, and what are some of the challenges and barriers that you've been coming up on, that we can make sure we put that in our plan together and that we're addressing those. We'll do, of course, those coaching meetings. We'll set up kind of an ongoing what I want to say, rhythm with you, what works for you. Usually it's anywhere from, it's generally monthly to every other month is usually kind of the general contact that we have with coalitions. But like I said, sometimes coalitions are working on a project where they need some additional support. We're really flexible around that. So we want this to be something where you feel like you have you have somebody on your side that you can call on when you have questions or you're having challenges. We want you to use us in real time, essentially. Again, we'll provide some of that support around God outcomes. We'll help you think about how to set up those outcomes, how to apply for it. We can provide that support to you. And we're expecting you all to apply for that because we want to highlight too what your accomplishments are, what you're working on, what you're doing. That's also something that you can take back to your community. If you can show your community the impact that you're making, you're working on sustainability already. You could use that to engage community members for recruitment. You could look at using that as an appeal for building funding or other human resources or organizational resources to your community. So this is a way in a structure that's built in to help you show some of those outcomes in your community. And then what we'll want to do is track some of that progress over time. So I'm always checking in. I know Kim does this too. We're always checking in. How's things going? You know, where are we at with our goals? You know, are we meeting those? Do we need to adjust those? Do we want to be adding or taking away a goal? You know, how are we feeling? How are we feeling this is working? And so the nice thing is we can make mid-course corrections as we're going along in the project. Again, what's nice is it's not extremely scripted like a training curriculum is. And so that's one of the benefits of coaching, is that we can kind of be flexible, make mid-course corrections, and we always want to be checking in with you on how you feel things are going.
I think it's important to talk about that kind of mid-course, like we may have to switch directions. And a specific example I can talk about is I was working with a group. We were really focused on bringing additional sectors to the table when they realized that the youth component that they had up and running was kind of fizzling out. And so we, kind of shifted and really worked on developing that youth piece for a few months. Not that they, I guess, did away with wanting to really build and mature their coalition and get a nice big group attending their coalition meetings, but they knew at that point they really needed to revitalize that youth component, as that was a major piece to what was going on with the coalition, and so they didn't want to lose that. So definitely making that shift as needed is vital.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Thanks for that. And I just have a question. I'd love for you to use the chat box here. We're calling this coaching, but I'm interested to know, what are some of the benefits that you've experienced from coaching in your own lives, whether it's professionally or personally, or maybe you've been a coach of some activity or whatever that might be, professionally or personally. So just in the chat box, what are some of the benefits you see of having a coach or being a coach? Fresh set of eyes. Yep. Yep, another point of view. That's great. Thanks, Courtney. Personalized care, accountability, learning from someone else's experiences. Yep, bring knowledge that we don't have. Fresh perspectives, individual impact. Great. A health coach. Great. Awesome. Right on, Allie. One-on-one attention, personally supportive, sharing. Yep, great, great. All right, that's great. These are some of the ones that we highlighted, and I think all of yours as well either kind of fit in here or things we could add here. But and some of you have talked about this. It's a fresh set of eyes. It's a different perspective. It's sometimes we can feel isolated. Sometimes we can feel siloed. Sometimes when you're in the thick of the work of your community, it can sometimes be hard to have an objective perspective or gain perspective on what the problem is or what might be some of the challenges. And so exactly what you all are saying, sometimes a coach can provide that fresh perspective. We're not in the day-to-day work. And so sometimes we can help you think about it maybe from the 10,000 foot level instead of kind of being in the muck of the day-to-day work, to be thinking about, hey, let's lift your head up, let's look around, let's think of what opportunities we have in front of us. Exactly those kind of things, right? Creating accountability is, I think, one of the things we find important in this. If we're meeting, let's say monthly, and I try to do this with all of my coalitions I'm working with, come up with what are some of those next steps, and let's make sure we're reporting out next time we meet on, what were some of those successes, what were some of your challenges you're having. And so I know for me personally, because I have a coalition coach, we actually have two coaches. We have one that works with our youth coordinator and one that works with us around policy work. But that really holds us accountable because we know we're going to be reporting on that, and it gives us that extra motivation that sometimes we need so that we have timelines and we're not necessarily kind of dragging something on, or maybe we're not getting to it because it's tough work sometimes, right? So we want to be creating some accountability for you and helping you make sure you're achieving your goals in a timely manner. And I think some of you spoke to this, helping you overcome some of your own challenges in your community, right? So we have a group of us that are working in this, and many of you know Dave Chevelle. So Dave Chevelle is another one of the coaches, but oftentimes we'll communicate back and forth with each other about resources. So one of the great things is I don't need to have and come with all the strategies. I'll sometimes contact Kim, Dave, Danielle, Jesus, and I'll say, hey, does anybody have, somebody's looking for an environmental scan to do on marijuana shops or something like that. I'm making this up. Actually, not making this up. And people will send in examples of scans, and we'll say, here's some examples of some scans. Take a look at them. Let me know what you think. And let's figure out which scan works better for you. So we have a pool of resources that we can pull from. The same as if you're finding a challenge with member recruitment or something, we often come together as a team and talk about solutions that we might have that can help each other, overcome some of these challenges. So we're really using each other as a resource in much of the work that we're doing. And I think the other thing that is so funny, one of my coalitions, they told me the last time I was on a call with them, they said, you just make us feel like we're doing such good work. And sometimes on the day-to-day, we just feel so bogged down. And so there's something to be said, I think, about coaching, that it should make you feel inspired. It should make you feel motivated. We're here to kind of be some cheerleaders in the background. Well, we know, because we're doing the work ourselves, we know this is hard work for you. We want to be cheerleaders on your side that are really encouraging you. And so we hope that you would find us to be motivating and helping to inspire creativity and helping and help you believe in yourself that you can overcome some of the challenges in your community that you might be facing, or helping you move the ball forward so that you can start achieving those goals in your community. So what are some of our next steps? So I'm hoping we're selling this thing to you, and that you see that the only real catch is your own time and your own desire to be in this project. So what might be these next steps? Where are we going to go from here? So Danielle has, and you've probably seen this in emails, but there's a registration link we'd like you to fill out, because obviously we want to know who's interested and we want to know your contact information. So again, you don't have to do this today. We would like to ask and encourage folks, if you want to get the advantage of the full year, I would suggest you maybe put it in within the next couple of weeks. But if you've got to go back and talk to your steering committee or your coalition, or you need to think about it a little bit longer of whether this is something you want to commit to, that's fine. But if you get it in before the end of the year, that's going to help us maximize our project with you. Danielle will keep us abreast on when those are coming in, but we will probably begin to divide up the coalitions among the various coaches by the beginning of the year, end of this year, and get that project rolling here in January. we're going to ask you to fill out what's called a milestones assessment. We will send that to you. And this is a real opportunity for you to do that self-assessment piece that we talked about on the front end. We want you to really think critically about, what are you doing well? What are some of the challenges you're having? What are some of your goals that you see that you might want to accomplish in the next 12 months? That's going to help us just develop a plan together and know realistically where your community is at, what you want to work on. We want this to be about you. We've given you a lot of skills and knowledge in the Coalition Academy. We want you now to think about, how do you as a coalition in the community want to realistically apply this? What do you want to work on? And that includes those SMART goals. So we want you to come up with a couple of these SMART goals. We want you to be specific, and we can help you with this. If SMART goals makes you roll your eyes and go crazy, we'll help you with this. It's okay, right? But we want them to be time sensitive. We want them to be something that you can achieve. We can work with you on that, but we want to come up with those so we know where we're moving with you all. And then we'll reach out to you, and we'll schedule some time to do some onboarding, get to know you a little bit more, and start the project. Kim, anything to add to this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the milestone assessment, that's a great way. And Rick spelled it out, great, how it can help you identify your areas for improvement. I know last year, a few of the coalitions, the first time I met with them, I'm like, so have you thought about, some goals or kind of what areas we really, want to be working on over the next year? And they're like, well, like we have this going on or that going on. Well, it was great because I could pull up their milestone self-assessment and really look through that. And then we had some great conversations around, well, here you said you may need some assistance with this, and here's the comment you made, with capacity or with assessment. And so it was a great conversation starter to really show me where the coalition was, in addition to reminding the coalition, because many times we fill out, these surveys or these assessments and just don't even think about it, right? We're filling it out and we hit submit and we're done with it. But being able to go back and really talk through that helped many coalitions really kind of guide their plan for the year. So definitely the milestone assessment is a great tool that will not only help on your end, but also on our end, providing the coaching. So I think that it is just a great tool that we have implemented over time.
Yeah, thanks for that addition, Kim. That is really important. And it really is about your coalition. This is not a pass fail kind of thing. We're not grading these. So be as realistic as you are, be yourself. This is about your community and helping your community. All right, so we have a little poll because Kim and I and Danielle are just chomping at the bit to see how many people are we going to have do this project. And so we just want to know, there's no commitment. There's no hard feelings if there's a no or unsure at this time. But we have a poll that is, I think, going to come up for us. Danielle, if you don't mind sharing that. Perfect. We won't know. It is anonymous, but are you interested at this time? How interested are you in participating right now in the Beyond the NCA project? Give you just a minute for that. And I can't see the percentage of folks submitting, Danielle, so I'll just let you close it whenever you would like to close that. All right, wonderful. All right, so you all, I believe, should be able to see these results. So we've got, Kim, we've got 25 right now interested. That's great. And 10 unsure, and no nos. Either you all are just too nice to us or you're interested, and we're excited about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We're going to be busy, Kim. And so will Dave and Danielle and Jesus, but that's great. We want this to be a project that grows in CADCA, and we want this to be a project that is going to really be helping you on the ground in your day-to-day work. So really excited about that. Thanks for filling out that poll. So here's who we are. I keep rattling off these names. I know many of you know us, but some of you may not know all the folks on our team. So here's our Coalition Development Support Team, or our acronym that we use is CDS. So if you ever hear that, that's who we are. Kim, myself, and Danielle obviously are on here, but we have Jesus, who's also on our staff. Joy Sweeney, you all probably at least met Joy at one point in the Coalition Academy. She usually came on in the various weeks and at least said hello to folks. So you probably know Joy. If you don't, you will know her, you will meet her and hear her at Forum. Her name, I think, fits her better than anyone else's name that I personally know of. She does bring joy in the room when she's there. There's Dave Chevelle, who many of you know. Dave is our legend, our living legend still. He'd probably be mad at me if he heard me say that. Many of you know Dave, and Dave will be helping us do coaching as well. So really excited for Dave to be a part of that this year. Dave has traditionally in the past only done trainings, but Dave is joining us to also do coaching this year, and we're really excited about that. Kim and I are especially excited because we get to learn from Dave as well. So that's really cool. So that's our team. So now we want to see if anyone has questions. You all have generally been using the chat box for comments and questions. I believe you're happy to continue there if that's what you're comfortable with, but we also have the Q&A box open. If you want to put a question in the Q&A box or in the chat box, that's fine. But want to know if you have any questions at this time.
So Rick, I know Cynthia had asked
Okay.
if the webinar would be available after this. She wanted to share it with some of her coalition members, and the answer is yes. And I don't know, Danielle, will they need to go to a certain link, or will everyone that's attending, will that be sent out to everyone?
It would be available on the website. So if you go to cadca.org and hover above training and find Beyond the NCA, I'll also put the link in the website, in the chat box, but it will be available on the website, just so everyone has access to it, whether they came to this meeting or not. So yes, after today, it will definitely be on there. And also the link to register will be on there for anyone who is unsure about whether they want to do it.
Great, thanks, Danielle.
And yes, the slides will also be there.
Perfect. Travis asked, will there be an in-person conference in 2022? Travis, I want to make sure we're answering your question correctly. Are you talking about like Forum and mid-year, or are you talking about the National Coalition Academies being in person? I wasn't sure what you meant by that one. And then Frankie Bryson asked, will the registration link be directly sent to us? Will we be sending out the link to everyone that attended?
The link will be available for everyone on the website, and I'm about to put the link to the website in the chat, but it's just cadca.org and Beyond the NCA.
Great.
There's a web page there.
And yeah, I can take a, go ahead, Kim.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, and if anyone has any further questions, even after, we get done going through all of these today, absolutely either reach out to Danielle at training@cadca.com or .org, or myself or Rick or whoever provided your coaching during your cohort. We can answer questions after this as well if you can't find the link or you can't find something. So, but definitely want to go ahead and answer any other questions as well. So I'll turn it back over to you, Rick.
That's okay. I can go ahead and take a crack at Travis's question, which is, will there be in-person conference in 2022? And the answer is yes for all the above. So CACA is moving back to in-person. So our national forum, which is January 31st to February 3rd, I believe, will be held in DC at the Gaylord Convention Center. That's going to be in person. We do also have coalition academies, if that's what you were talking about. Most of our coalition academies are moving back to in person. We do have a virtual academy as well, but I think it might be full already. So yes, we're moving back to in person. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Rick.
Is there a deadline to register? Technically, no, we don't have a deadline. It's kind of rolling, but I would suggest if you want to be a part of the project for its entirety, that you get registration in by the end of the year or beginning of next year in January, so that we can get you assigned. We'll have to go through the process of onboarding with you, get you assigned, have you do your assessment, things like that. It takes a little bit of time. So the sooner the better.
And then Jody just mentioned that she just went out to that web page, and the registration link actually takes them back to the webinar. Danielle, so I don't
Yes.
know.
So the link on the website right now, just because we wanted everyone to register for the webinar, is to register for this webinar. But after this webinar is over, that link will be replaced with the link to register to participate. And so we just wanted everyone to register for this webinar and attend, as you all have done. And so now we will put the materials and the registration link on the website.
Thanks, Danielle.
Oh, thanks, Jody. Wanting to do it ASAP. All right, I'm with you. Get that in. Great. We'd love to have you.
And then Danielle, can you pop the link that they can register? Oh, look, see, Danielle already knows what my mind's trying to say. I mean,
and I put
Danielle.
it up in the chat, but it got lost in the messages.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you to put that up there.
Kristen asked, and maybe Danielle, maybe you've heard this already. Is it true that everybody needs to be vaccinated and boosted for Forum? Do you know the answer to that yet?
Yes, so you do need to be vaccinated for Forum. Boosters are encouraged, but not required. So yes, you do need to be vaccinated for Forum. And if anyone is planning on applying for the Graduate Coalition Academy, email training@cadca.org and we can have that conversation as well.
Oh, Julie says Graduate Coalition Academy. What is that?
Did I just open up another can of worms?
That's okay. That's all right. Go for it, Danielle.
That's okay.
Oh, for the GC, the Graduate Coalition Academy is a just a higher version of the NCA. It's where Dave Chevelle and a couple of our master trainers take you through a more in-depth analysis of the products, as well as give you just more resources on how to accomplish your coalition goals. And so the application for the Graduate Coalition Academy is open right now. It's on the website. And all you need to do is submit your the products that you submitted for the NCA. And so, yes, I'll put the link up right now. And again, if you go to cadca.org and go to training, all of this information is available for you guys. And here's the link for the Graduate Coalition Academy. And for the Graduate Coalition Academy, you do not, well, I'm not gonna say, for the Graduate Coalition Academy, we will send out a reminder about vaccination status, because that is something that we're still discussing right now. But yes, so there's Julie, lots of options for you guys if you want to beyond the NCA or the Graduate Coalition Academy. CADCA is just here to help in any way possible. And if you have any more questions about any of these, please email me at training@cadca.org.
Yeah, and Julie asked, is that Graduate Coalition Academy only available for year 2? And that answer is no. Anyone can apply for the Graduate Coalition Academy. So if you're year 3 or you're year 5, many times we do see a coalition go through, the traditional National Coalition Academy in year 1, and then, participate in maybe beyond the NCA that they choose to do it during year 2, and then year 3 or year 4, they participate in that Graduate Coalition Academy. So it does not have to be year 2 to participate in the Graduate Academy. It can be any time during your drug-free community or drug-free communities grant time, or even just as a coalition, you can apply for that.
Yes, and Francesca, to answer your question about who writes your letter of recommendation, it can be anyone from a coalition member to a volunteer that has been involved with the coalition. So it's really just anyone who has been involved with the coalition. It could be anyone from the chair of the leadership team, anyone on the steering committee, or any volunteer. And you, Jody, to answer your question, the Graduate Coalition Academy starts next year. And so you would not be able to participate. I mean, you technically could do both the Beyond the NCA and the GCA if you were accepted into the GCA. So you could do both, but you couldn't do it afterwards because they would run at the same time.
Yeah, Daniel, I think what her question was just like, could they do it in the future? So
Oh,
like,
yes,
yeah, so they could do 2023 Graduate Academy.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think don't be stressed about feeling like you need to attend the Graduate Academy next year by any means. You have a new set of tools here in the Coalition Academy. I'm kind of talking to June's question in the Q&A that we received. You know, you don't have to do two at the same time. I don't necessarily even recommend that per se. I would say get good with the products and get good with your process as a coalition of what you just learned now, and use the Graduate Coalition Academy as a booster or next level a few years from now. That's what I would recommend, because it's open to any year of the, like Kim was saying, any year that you're in the drug-free community grant or even non-funded drug-free community grants, non-funded coalitions that do not have DFC dollars can also apply for it. Yeah, thanks for being here, Wendy. Any other questions? Kim and I and Danielle will stay on here for a few more minutes and see if anything comes in.
Yeah, and I was also going to say, obviously, you have all built some rapport and, relationships with other coalitions that were in your cohort. So definitely, even if they were unable to make this webinar today, if you're talking to someone and they're like, oh man, that sounds like something we would like to do, you can still, they can still register. So I know that I had a handful of coalitions reach out to me and say, oh, we already have something going on. And so you did not have to attend this. However, in my opinion, you get a lot of information. So it's a great thing to do if you're able to. So I will definitely encourage those that weren't able to go back and watch the webinar, but that does not, because you weren't, if a coalition was unable to attend today, they can still participate.
Great. Thanks, Gwendolyn.
Yes, thank you everyone so much for coming, and we hope to see many of your names on the list that decide that Beyond the NCA is an initiative that you would like to be part of. Sue
has a question here. Do we have a one-pager to share with coalition members about the Beyond the NCA?
Yes, there is a PDF one-pager at the bottom of, I'm not sure if you all will be able to open it right now because it is a PDF, but there is a one-pager at the bottom of the webpage, the Beyond the NCA webpage.
Great.
So yes, that's available. Of course. Thank you for being here, everyone. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays, everyone.
Absolutely. We again want to thank you for your time today. And like Rick mentioned, myself, him, and Danielle will hang out for a few minutes if you have any other questions. Otherwise, we hope to see you and your coalition decide to register.